You need to pull the controller wire.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm fucking not. Pull the wire.
If this gets me blown up...
Okay, let's get this out of the way. Watch Dogs Legion is not a good game. But before you hit the dislike button and click off this video, let me explain why. While there are aspects of Legion that are good, great even, that I feel like a step forwards for the franchise, like the recruitment system, premise, setting and tone, there's also more that feels like 2 steps backwards. The repetitive mission design, the focus on action over stealth, the dumb AI, the bland encounters, the bugs, the glitches, the crashes. The whole game is extremely rough around the edges, almost as if Ubisoft ran out of time or money to make the game they wanted. That's a lot to unpack, so over the course of this Watch Dogs Legion review, let's examine all of this in a lot more detail. Watch Dogs 2 had no idea what type of game it wanted to be. It wanted to be a stealth game with detailed hacking mechanics, but it also wanted to be GTA 5. It wanted to be a serious story about tech companies manipulating us, but it also wanted to be a buddy comedy with light-hearted banter and pop culture references. These conflicting ideas pulled the game in different directions, creating an inconsistent tone, and as a result, ludonarrative dissonance. While in Watch Dogs Legion the tone is much better, and it's clear Ubisoft know exactly the type of game they're making. A dark tale about government conspiracies set in a London dystopia. We see this in an impressive introduction as you attempt to defuse a series of bombs. It's unsuccessful. The bombs explode, civilians die, and DedSec are framed as a terrorist organisation. Compare this to the introduction of Watch Dogs 2, where we see a party on the beach and the first of many unintentionally hilarious lines.
Have a good party.
You can see this as a step forward, so what could possibly go wrong, you may ask? Well, early on not much actually, as the narrative takes us to dark and uncomfortable places, like a human trafficking operation beneath Southwark Incinerator, or as we uncover an automated drone programmed to preemptively kill people before they can commit crimes. This is dark, consistent with the tone, and something that was sorely missing from the franchise previously. It's also good to see that Ubisoft have created better villains in Legion, as thankfully it's usually clear what their motives are, rather than the generic reason of money and power. So, this all sounds great, right? The writing and tone in Legion has improved, and we should all praise that. Not quite, because this is only the first half of the game, and you've probably guessed, but things do in fact go wrong. The villains act in stereotypical villain ways, like randomly shooting people in a board meeting, and new characters are introduced who literally just spout exposition at you. 1 step forwards, 2 steps back. After this point, the quality of writing nosedives, and finishing Legion becomes an absolute chore. Even your charismatic AI companion Bagley can't save the day.
I'm upgrading this from dodgy to fucking dodgy.
So, having a generic narrative might not be a deal breaker for you. I mean, Ubisoft games aren't known for telling groundbreaking stories. They make great open worlds full of interesting things to do and see, and that's fine. And while this is definitely true for Legion, the design of its open world is also a step backwards for Ubisoft. But before I explain why, let's start with the good. I think there's one thing that we can all agree about Legion. It's that Ubisoft has done an incredible job of creating a dystopian London. It's clear they spent a lot of time researching the city, its landmarks, and carefully planning how it all fits together. The famous London landmarks are definitely here, which ticks the virtual tourism box nicely. The city also serves as an excellent place to act in ways that you can't in real life. If you wanted to do donuts in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, for example, then you'll be pretty happy with Legion. But I think the greatest achievement of the open world is that London comes alive at night. We see vibrant neon lights and unique holograms that contrast perfectly against the dull grey seen during the day. It's visually impressive even on the original Xbox One. But however visually impressive London may be, there are glaring issues which can't be overlooked. For one, Legion doesn't feel like a next-gen game. Sure, the ray tracing looks outstanding and the night scene's stunning, but as a whole it lacks the finer details to make it believable. While there are definitely details here, like people busking or going about their daily duties, all of these features were present 4 years ago in Watch Dogs 2. In fact, some features have even been removed. Look at the clothes shops in Legion, for example. You can't go into any of them. There's also no coffee shops, no restaurants, and no cafes. Sure, you can go into the pubs in Legion, but having a game set in London with no pubs would be like a game set in London where you can't go down into the tube. Oh wait, you can't do that either. The tube is a quintessential part of London life, but in Legion, it exists only as fast travel points. Being able to explore the tunnels of a subway system is a feature in GTA 5, a game which came out in 2013 on the 360 and PS3. It's within these moments that everything falls apart, where Legion takes another step back. Moments where you put Legion's open world under a microscope and are faced with immersion-breaking questions. Questions like, why are there no passengers on the buses? Why do people appear out of black holes? Why are the pubs so quiet? What on earth is this lady doing on this phone box? Why can't we go in the tube? Why does the texture look so bad for the sky? The list goes on. But there's one answer to all of these questions. It's because the developers at Ubisoft weren't given enough time and money to make Watch Dogs Legion the best it could be. There is absolutely no way that this game, in its current state, is the game that Ubisoft wanted.
I have the vehicle. What's next?
Okay, good question. Let's go with... drive it into the river.
Really?
Because like the open world, there are other areas where the quality is inconsistent, like the main characters. Sometimes they're animated with full CGI, while other times it's an image with an audio wave as they talk. Some missions have unique loading screens, while others cut to black with no transition. Sometimes a character animation plays when you interact with an object, sometimes it cuts straight to black. And if you're playing on older consoles, Legion is poorly optimised with low resolution textures, endless bugs and multiple crashes. You'll often fall through boats, objects float in cutscenes, and one time this lady was on top of a random phone box as I mentioned earlier. These are 3 bugs, but I counted 27 in total. Some bugs even stop mission progression. There were multiple times I couldn't interact with a keypad to open a door, and another time a VIP drone was invincible. I had to leave the area, come back, fight the same enemies, and the drone was still invincible. It turns out he can survive gunshots, but dies when you punch him a few times.
Finish him.
This makes no sense whatsoever.
Fatality.
These issues are further compounded by the crashes. Legion crashed 14 times during my playthrough, which isn't quite as bad as 43 crashes in Wasteland 3, but in Wasteland 3, nothing else is frustrating. In Legion, everything is frustrating. It makes the game feel extremely cheap, again suggesting the project wasn't given enough money. I mean, look at the campaign title screen. This looks like it cost about £10 to make, like it was cobbled together at the last minute.
Optimized for Xbox Series X.
Now, there is no way to tell what happens behind closed doors when a game is being developed, and none of the articles I've read provide a definite answer. But it makes sense that the resources ran dry if you consider how ambitious Legion is. The tagline, "Play as anyone," is of course a strong selling point, but to technically pull it off must have taken an obscene amount of work. Even the cutscenes, everyone must be capable of using any character in the game. This resulted in 50 to 100 actors recording multiple lines with different accents. It's mind-blowing they actually did it, and seeing it in action is equally as impressive. As you explore, you can hack into anyone's phone to reveal their weapons, perks and their backstory. It makes exploring consistently enjoyable as you scan everyone searching for powerful operatives, like a beekeeper named Shirley who commands a swarm of bees.
Sorry, dear, I'm trying to understand.
Or a football hooligan who downs a can of lager to increase his melee damage.
You look like I need oven mitts. You know, because you're hot. Oh fuck, let me start again.
But unfortunately, being able to play as anyone doesn't always lead to great gameplay, as there are an overwhelming majority of operatives who are essentially useless. How useful is a busker who can play the banjo, for example, versus a spy with a silenced pistol, a watch that can jam enemy weapons, and a car that turns invisible and shoots homing rockets? This difference in quality means that you'll gravitate towards powerful operatives like the spy or like the hitman, who are so overpowered that they ruin Legion's core gameplay. If we look at the spy, they have a silenced pistol that deals high damage with headshots and can even one-shot kill weaker enemies. Whereas the hitman has a high-powered automatic weapon, a combat roll which reloads your weapon and an instant takedown even when enemies are alerted. Using the spy, you can charge through levels, chaining headshots together, whereas the hitman can literally run diagonally towards an enemy and then take them down instantly with a one-shot kill. Now in Watch Dogs 2, there was an instant takedown in the form of the stun gun, but the stun gun had one shot and a long reload animation. This meant if you missed your shot, you'd be temporarily vulnerable while you reloaded. In Legion, the spy's silenced pistol doesn't have one shot, it has 17. 17 shots before you even need to consider reloading, and if you need to reload with the hitman, you just roll forwards, which actually makes you even less vulnerable. Using these classes on the recommended difficulty, I never felt challenged once in Watch Dogs Legion. If there's no challenge, if everything is easy, then it's hard to be engaged in the gameplay. And if we're not engaged, we have to ask ourselves, why are we playing Legion in the first place? I asked this very question halfway through the game, after which I struggled to finish. However, this experience will differ between players, as you can definitely use the hacking and stealth mechanics if you wish, but using stealth and hacking makes the game much harder and much longer. Why would we do that? In Watch Dogs 2, you were forced to use stealth and hacking, as Ubisoft gave you low health and enemies spotted you easily. But in Legion, it's the complete opposite. You have more health, and enemies take longer to spot you. But not only do they take longer to spot you, the enemy AI are absolute idiots. They don't search the other side of cover to find you. They don't spot you when they're looking directly at you. They don't notice their teammate being assassinated next to them. They climb ladders over and over, allowing you to repeatedly kick them off the edge. But the biggest joke is the fact that enemies instantly die when they fall in water. I cannot believe this is in a AAA game in 2020, as it feels like a feature from 20 years ago. Again, it suggests Ubisoft ran out of time and money to code in enemy swimming animations, which is another point in a long list that shows how rough around the edges Watch Dogs Legion is. I'm not saying any of this to insult the devs, because I know they've worked hard on the game, especially as times are hard at the moment anyway. The fact they've delivered their promise of play as anyone should be commended, and it's clear they've used feedback from Watch Dogs 2 to improve core parts of the game, because in Watch Dogs 2, it felt like 80% of the missions had the same structure: go to an area, sneak in, interact with an objective, and sneak out. In Legion, these missions do make up the majority of the game, but there has also been substantial improvements to mission variety. Some involve platforming sections, using drones and your spider bot. The highlight here was climbing up Big Ben, and timing your jumps on moving cogs, while others involve drone combat, like the mission with Stormzy. And there are missions using augmented reality to piece together past events, like visiting a main character's childhood home, which showcased outstanding environmental storytelling, passive world building, and a detailed character study. These missions are amazing as they're unique, but the main problem still exists. They are still overwhelmed by missions which follow the standard Watch Dogs formula of go to an area, do a thing, and leave. I'd say the standard missions make up around 60% of the game this time, which is an improvement, but because the recruitment system has watered down the stealth mechanics, it makes these missions even worse than in Watch Dogs 2, and a lot of the time you're defending a point as enemies attack, further funneling you into generic third-person shooter gameplay. It is so repetitive.
Yes, that would work, but it's not very much fun. Don't you want to poison him at least? We haven't poisoned anybody yet.
Creative, Bags. But let's just shoot him, shall we?
It got to a point about halfway through the game when I even stopped trying to recruit people, as I was so fed up with the gameplay. In order to recruit someone, you have to complete a generic mission to convince them to join, which follows exactly the same structure. Go there, get in, do a thing, get out. But to add insult to injury, they force you to go back to the same locations multiple times. I went to 2 locations at least 3 times over, if not more, which combined with the repetitive gameplay was infuriating. There surely must be a better way of implementing this system, ways that are even in the game. You can take down an adversary of a potential recruit, which is so much better, because A, it's organic, and B, you don't have to complete these repetitive missions. And that's the most frustrating thing about Watch Dogs Legion. It has a revolutionary system, but its implementation, in its current state, creates gameplay which feels like 2 steps backwards. It's amazing that all of these characters have unique personalities, appearances and daily schedules, but none of this matters if the core gameplay is a mess. It feels like the project wasn't given enough time or money, as Legion is extremely rough around the edges, full of bugs, and forces us to ask immersion-breaking questions about its open world. But the worst thing about Legion is that it's watered down everything from Watch Dogs 2 to focus on an action-orientated style of play, which is something we can experience in many other games, and in most cases, experience a more accomplished version with deeper mechanics and better action. I hope this isn't the end for Watch Dogs Legion, as there is so much potential in its systems. I hope it gets a sequel, and the business heads at Ubisoft give the project the resources it needs. The recruitment system is a technical marvel, but its implementation needs completely rethinking. The way it fits into Watch Dogs needs revisiting to make it feel more organic and less like a chore. Because now, I refuse to go to an area, interact with an objective and leave. And to be honest, I urge you to do the same. Thanks for watching my review of Watch Dogs Legion, and see you on the next one.